Happy Sunday afternoon, everybody. We're going to hang out for just a minute while we wait for everybody to file in and have a seat. Got another new shirt. This blockchain. Don't really know what it means, but it looks cool. We're going to be looking at a whole bunch of tickers, the big three, a bunch of altcoins, and we're going to look on the weekly time frames and then zoom in from there. We're going to learn lots. Going to, what is it called? Transparency 18. Tuesday and Wednesday. It's a conference for blockchain in the shipping and transport industry. Should be interesting. There's going to be a lot of major players there like FedEx and UPS. So we're certainly going to learn a lot on projects in the crypto space working on it, but also going to get some insight in terms of stocks to be looking at to benefit from the blockchain revolution as well. So looking forward to that. They're going to live stream it all. I'll post a link and we'll be talking to some very interesting people. We'll wait just one more minute here. As far as requests, we compile member requests, so all of these tickers are in order of the most voted on. EOS, ADA, ZEC, NEO, BNB, ICX, TRX, XRP, and ZRX. And then we'll do Q&A at the end. So not going to take requests on tickers yet. You might as well save yourself some time, unless you just really like typing into that YouTube chat box. All right, let's go. Weekly time frame. As we know, the weekly time frame for Bitcoin, we've all got it tattooed, various parts on our bodies. This is what we're watching for the break to indicate momentum and direction for the second half of 2018. We are looking for our higher low to form. We're waiting patiently for ourselves to have confidence of that higher low forming. When are we going to be confident that our weekly higher low has formed? When the daily trend has changed. And that means we have to break the lower high pattern. So the last lower high that we had on the daily time frame, we bounced from and rejected from 8,880. Anything under 8,880 is a lower high on the daily time frame. In the video that I made yesterday, I said the bounce at this point does not look strong enough for us to anticipate a higher low and a higher high. With its new leg up today, now we are seeing enough of a bounce that if we do consolidate before breaking 8,880, we can anticipate the bulls to form a higher low and then try and break the lower highs and see a bullish MACD cross to go along with it. At that point, we will be confident that our weekly higher low has been set. So we're watching exponential resistance right now. The last attempt at this resistance, like I said, rejected. So that was the key level of resistance to be watching once we got our bull break today, which I'll show you in just a moment. Some signals on the bull break earlier this morning. But now it's the battle for the exponential resistances. If we reject, we look for a higher low and then break to a higher high and get over those exponential resistances. That is best case scenario for the bulls. Worst case scenario for the bulls is rejecting with a lower high and then dropping back down to our recent low of 7,927 and dropping to a lower low. Again, the magnitude of this bounce, we have now bounced about $600, is significant enough that we can anticipate the bulls to hold on at least for a higher low if we do begin to pull back from here to start this coming week. So the breakout that we had today, a couple signals. Number one, 4-hour maintaining the higher low pattern. So we had a low of 8,152, and the bulls were looking to form a higher low compared to that level yesterday, and we formed a higher low by less than $20. This was a really good trade entry opportunity, and it's because of the risk to reward of that trade. The scenario as we were heading to that support on the 15-minute time frame was oversold conditions. So here we go. Here is the RSI down at the low. It dropped down to 22, and then we dropped down to the low 20s again. Bulls bounced significantly. The bottom line is when you have this key support, here it is back here. This was our 4-hour higher low, 8,152, and you're approaching a key support level with oversold RSI levels. That's when the risk to reward is in your best favor. So if you're making an entry, even at 8,200, you're risking $50 before you get stopped out, and the potential reward on that trade is continuation of the 4-hour time frame, maintaining higher lows and seeing continuation. And at this point, from there, we have seen $400 of upside, a little less than that, $350 of upside or so. So the risk was $50. The reward has now been $350. So even just to get back to that resistance, the risk to reward was in favor of 3 to 1. $150 to get back to resistance, $50 before getting stopped out on the loss of the 4-hour higher low pattern. So the scenario where the 15-minute RSI was at extreme levels was a good entry opportunity, knowing support was right there. There also ended up being a double bottom, and as soon as that double bottom broke the lower high and we got over this resistance level, that would be a more cautious entry where we're saying, okay, the bulls did hold support, they're changing the 15-minute trend, and let's see now if the 4-hour chart can get continuation in the bulls' favor. Another bull signal today, we've had a bunch of bull signals, was a potential, I posted this one on Twitter before it happened, but the cup and handle pattern on the hourly. We had resistance on the left side, we had healthy consolidation, where we formed our cup pattern, and it's the magnets making it look like that, but there's our cup, and then there's our bull flag of consolidation before the breakout and continuation. So I posted that chart after a couple green candlesticks here, then we saw increasing bull volume, and we knew the odds of breaking out were pretty high. And obviously we saw the follow through. Again, using the hourly exponential moving averages, the 12 and the 26 period, as support levels has also been really good for gauging entry opportunities on consolidation. So we pulled back, we touched the exponential supports, we're seeing continuation. The 4-hour time frame made a bull cross of these exponential moving averages for the first time since our top back at 10,000. That's another significant development, and we're going to be looking to hold these exponential moving averages on the 4-hour when we do consolidate, and that consolidation will likely take place tonight into tomorrow. We can absolutely still see some further upside, but just in terms of whether or not we can break $8,080, $8,880, that's not a likely scenario in this position, in my opinion. We're going to have to consolidate on the 4-hour time frame before we make our way to that resistance level. So that's where we stand on Bitcoin. It's definitely bullish in the short term. 15-minute higher lows are forming. We're coming up to resistance right now. 8,549 is our top. The 15-minute higher lows are the stop levels you're using if you want to have a really tight stop. If you want a looser stop, you're using the hourly higher low. And if you want an even looser stop, you're using the 4-hour higher low. But we haven't formed a 4-hour higher low since 8,171. So we know that next time we consolidate, the odds that the bulls form another higher low is very likely. Pull back a couple $100, form that higher low, and then the bulls attempt continuation again. Essentially the same thing that we just saw last night. Pull back, establish another higher low, see continuation. That got a little bit too close for comfort for the bulls. They want to hold or establish a nice clear higher low on the 4-hour time frame. But again, use these exponential moving averages as your guide. And I can say to myself, okay, if we consolidate, I know we're going to need to on the 4-hour time frame, but if we hold these exponential supports, which we just gained as clear support for the first time in a while, then that can be a potential target to be looking for an entry, just like it was on the hourly time frame during this handle of the cup and handle pattern. We also had an hourly inside bar break bullish just before the candlestick broke out. We had a 4-hour inside bar that broke bullish at 8,270. So the signals are all over the place in terms of short-term bullish entries, and it's just getting into a position and positioning yourself comfortable enough where if you do get stopped out, it's not a significant amount. And we are looking for the daily chart to shift momentum and bring the bulls back in control, change the trend on the daily, and have our weekly higher low form. So that is where Bitcoin stands. Now let's compare everything else to our sector leader, Bitcoin, and see how we stand. We know Ethereum is stronger than Bitcoin, and it has been pretty consistently. Right now we have a pattern on Ethereum on the weekly time frame with multiple inside bars, and it's going to form another inside bar here at the end of today. So I'm really liking this setup for clarity because this coming week we are very likely to break this inside bar one direction or the other. 650, 650 is a bear break, and 746 is a bull break. So that's the range we're watching this coming week, and again, the odds of a break are likely. The daily time frame is also much more bullish on Bitcoin. Let's look at this comparison of the chart of Bitcoin on the weekly compared to Ethereum on the daily. Let's see how close this chart looks. So as we know, Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, here's our current pattern, and we are looking for a higher low. So we just bounced, we formed our lower high, we had a long lower wick, lower high, higher low, lower high, and now we're looking for that higher low. Ethereum, long lower wick, lower high, higher low. We're looking for a potential lower high to form compared to 746. If that does form and we begin to pull back, essentially where Ethereum right now is on the daily time frame is where Bitcoin was maybe 3 weeks ago, right here. So watching for the potential of a lower high. If we get it, we look to continue to tighten in this equilibrium pattern, as we know we're in an equilibrium pattern on the daily because the weekly time frame is inside bars. Think about inside bars are the macro version of equilibrium patterns. So if I have an equilibrium pattern on the hourly time frame, I likely have inside bars on the daily time frame or the 4-hour time frame. So if you're zooming out, it's inside bars. If you're zooming in, it's an equilibrium pattern. All depends on the time frame you're looking at it. So again, the weekly time frame for Ethereum, multiple inside bars. The daily time frame, clear tightening equilibrium pattern with volume dropping off. So the two scenarios for Ethereum, in my opinion, if Bitcoin rejects on the daily time frame here from this exponential resistance and does need to pull back and form a higher low, perhaps in the $8,200, $8,300 range, then Ethereum is going to pull back and form a lower high compared to 746. If that is the case, then we're going to be looking for a higher low to form on the daily time frame. So for those of you that are newer, this is probably pretty complex, and that's definitely understandable because I'm looking at different time frames, I'm looking at different setups, and if this happens on Bitcoin, this is going to likely happen on Ethereum. But it's just my way of wrapping my head around the entire setup and knowing which direction I want to be looking at when the breaks do occur. So in my opinion, we're going to get a break of this Ethereum equilibrium on the daily time frame before we get a break on the Bitcoin weekly equilibrium. And the reason for that is obviously because one candlestick on Ethereum is a day and one candlestick here for Bitcoin is a week. So the time's going to go by a lot faster. We're going to get a lot more candlesticks, 7 candlesticks on this ETH chart for every one we get on that Bitcoin weekly. So that's going to give a little bit of a clue. If Ethereum breaks bullish from this daily equilibrium, the odds that the weekly time frame for Bitcoin will break bullish will increase slightly. So that's definitely something to be watching. Ethereum has been my top play ever since the bounce started here, and the bulls have started to show themselves clearly stronger than Bitcoin. And I currently still hold a position from Ethereum from that entry I made yesterday morning. It's a small position, but it helps me not feel any FOMO. If the price is breaking out and I have a small position and I'm profiting and I'm making money on the weekend doing nothing, then it's way easy for me to sit there and be patient knowing I have, maybe it's a 15% position at this point right now. So holding that, not doing anything with it because the bulls look fine, and just patiently waiting for a break of the daily equilibrium. So for me, my main focus in the cryptocurrency space is going to be the daily Ethereum equilibrium. And then after that plays out for a while, the Bitcoin weekly equilibrium will be on watch as well. So 4-hour time frame on Ethereum, same thing. We need to form a higher low. We lost the higher low pattern with that fluke flush on Coinbase yesterday, which I highlighted in that video. It happened in the middle of the video. And that didn't happen on other exchanges. So again, I took that with a grain of salt. I did not count that as losing the uptrend, as the bulls did quickly recover. And you can see a significant recovery. We had multiple inside bar bull breaks here as well. So the alert system firing off 4-hour inside bar bull breaks at 7:07 and again at 7:14. And the bulls have full control. But again, the 4-hour time frame has not established a higher low in quite some time, and we know that's going to be coming. So we'll look at exponential resistance as a potential level to hold. Look at the hourly exponential resistance. Ever since that flush and then the bulls recovered, we've held this hourly exponential support as our higher lows, our bases of consolidation before we get continuation. So Ethereum bulls are looking great. It's just a question of, can the Bitcoin bulls continue through 8,500 into the 8,600s. So Ethereum sees enough strength to break 746. In my opinion, what is most likely to happen is Bitcoin pulling back, needing a higher low on the daily time frame, Ethereum rejecting from below 746, needing a higher low on the daily time frame. I anticipate both of them to get that higher low, but I don't think we get clear breaks for a few days. Could we get the break tonight and just see a breakout? Absolutely, and that's something to be prepared for. So while I have the most likely scenario, I definitely have game plans for different scenarios. If Ethereum breaks out tonight and breaks 746, how am I going to play that? Definitely want to have that as a game plan. If A happens, I do this. If B happens, I do this. Because those are the two scenarios now. Is Ethereum going to break this lower high and just keep going? Or is it going to set a lower high and continue to tighten this equilibrium pattern, which requires more patience? Litecoin got a little bit more extra momentum on this most recent break, but on the weekly time frame, it's still doing the same thing as Bitcoin. Equilibrium pattern, looking for the higher low. Need to change the daily trend for us to be confident that that weekly higher low has formed. So we got the exponential resistance approaching as well, same thing. Odds of breaking the lower high pattern on the daily time frame on this go are not likely. It's all the way up at 152.94. We need another $14 to get up to that level. So I'm going to be looking for a lower high on the daily, the pullback for a higher low, and then a break of the lower highs for a breakout. That's what the bulls need for the bull MACD cross and to prove themselves on the weekly time frame for us to say, okay, daily trend has changed, weekly higher low has been set. Shorter term time frames for Litecoin, we can see that we've seen a significant bull move. We also lost the higher low pattern on Litecoin here as well on the 4-hour time frame, so that is notable, a little bit more tricky there. But again, this is highlighting the importance where if I look at Litecoin's 4-hour time frame and I say, oh man, we broke the higher low pattern, and then I look at Bitcoin's 4-hour pattern and I say the higher lows are still intact, that means I have to take the Litecoin break with a grain of salt because Bitcoin is not following to add that correlation to that downside. So it tells me that Litecoin was weaker than Bitcoin, absolutely, but it can be a fake out because Bitcoin never broke bearish. So significant bull move for Litecoin, higher lows, 135.80 on the hourly, and we just formed another one at 138.71. And if we lose that, we'll be watching hourly exponential supports to see if the bulls are able to maintain those levels. Bulls still strong across the board on the big three. It's just a question of can we have further momentum into tonight, or when do we top out and need to see hourly consolidation? And I do believe that hourly consolidation is going to be coming tonight for reasons I just explained. BCH just saw a strong breakout as well. Daily time frame, how about that inside bar signal? Inside bar bull break at 12.12.62, and just like that, we're up $100. So a very significant follow through on that daily inside bar break. The weekly time frame, we're looking for a higher low to form after the breakout over the past month in April. And again, daily time frame needs to change the trend for the bulls to be confident that our weekly higher low has been set. We're not there yet. The last lower high on the daily time frame, I'm looking up at 14.96. The odds that the bulls can break 14.96 on this move are not likely. We're likely to set a lower high, consolidate, form a higher low, and we'll take it from there. A couple scenarios on this consolidation, if we see increasing bear volume on the consolidation for Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of them, that's going to increase the odds that we're not going to form a higher low on the daily time frame. So all these little clues are constantly shifting the percentage chances of what's going to happen, whether we get a bull break, a bear break, equilibriums. So I'm looking at volume, I'm looking at RSI levels, and constantly shifting what is the most likely scenario. So I'll wrap up just one more time at the end here what the most likely scenario for me on Bitcoin is, just so we can all get on the same page. EOS USD. Recent breakout in April, healthy consolidation on the weekly. We're looking for a weekly higher low to form, as the last higher low was all the way down here at 387. So we know a higher low is coming. And again, same thing on the daily. Daily trend has to change for us to be confident that our weekly higher low has been established. We have broken the lower highs on the daily time frame. This was a pretty key short-term resistance of 13.95. Now that the lower highs have broken, we're going to look for a higher low and a higher high to confirm that the trend has changed. The next major resistance level is 15.13. Bulls want to break that level, and then there's a lack of resistance up until the 17s and 18s, and we're looking for a bull MACD cross. So bulls have full momentum in their favor, but we know a daily higher low and higher high are needed to confirm here because this bounce right now is coming off the low of consolidation. There's no higher lows established at this point. The 4-hour trend very clearly changed. We had a nice equilibrium that broke bull. So let's look at this 4-hour equilibrium that was a signal. We had our low, high, higher low just barely held. Then we had a lower high, higher low, and I would consider this candlestick right here as the first bull break signal, breaking the 4-hour lower highs, and then it was just nothing but higher lows and higher highs over the next couple of days. So the 4-hour time frame, bull cross of the exponential moving averages, bull still in full control, and once we lose, if we lose the 4-hour higher low pattern on any of these names, that's when we know that the daily chart is consolidating to attempt to form that higher low. So EOS short term, hourly higher lows could be your stop level, all depends on how long the time frame is when you got your entry, but the most recent support is 13.86, and then it's followed by 13.35 after that. Resistance is 14.19, and then that daily level of 15.13. So bull still in control here as well. Loss of the hourly higher lows is red flag number 1 for consolidation. Loss of the 4-hour higher lows tells us daily consolidation is coming. Neither of those things have happened. It's something we're keeping an eye out for. ADAUSDT, this one's on Binance. That was on Bitfinex for EOS. So this is Binance. We have broken down to a lower low, obviously not much weekly data here, so the daily chart giving us some more information. The bulls are trying to change the trend, but again, a lot of work to do. The recent low of 23 cents is our base of support. The last bounce on the daily time frame, there's a couple levels. The first one is 26 cents, which we're rejecting from right now. It's a little bit of a double top here. And after 26 cents, it's 28.5. In order to change this trend, we're likely going to have to form a lower high compared to 28.5 and then need a higher low and a higher high to change that trend and for the bulls to be back in control on the daily time frame. So it's a nice bounce. There's absolutely profit opportunity. We bounced 8% from the low, more than that. But in terms of changing the trend, still work to do. So every chart that we've looked at right now on the daily time frame, out of these 5 so far, or these 6, we need to see a higher low and a higher high for the daily bulls to regain their confidence that they are back in control. ZECUSD, this one's on Bitfinex as well. We have a daily higher low and higher high. Look at the volume behind that move. So that's a big difference on where we stand. That's actually the weekly chart. So still very notable, the weekly chart getting that higher low and higher high. So we had our low, high of the bounce, not going to change the trend on that bounce as the resistance is too far away. There's our higher low and higher high. So now the weekly trend has changed. We have a new must-hold support level of 228. Resistance is 386. And then the next major level is up at 509. There's a lot of space here. There's a lot of bull volume behind this move. Let's see the daily chart if the bulls are overextended. Looks like we have an equilibrium forming. So what I'm looking at now on the daily time frame is a tightening range with our high of the breakout, our low of the initial consolidation, our lower high, which is essentially a double top, and now we're looking for a higher low compared to 301.78. Anything above that level is a higher low. Maybe bulls form it right here. That would be bullish if that ends up being our higher low. But the key resistance is 386 and 382. That's our double top. Bulls have to break that level. This is healthy consolidation. We can see continuation. You can see the RSI levels have cooled off and trading sideways. The exponential moving averages are catching up. And we'll see if the bulls break this equilibrium for continuation for the bulls. If we break it bearish below 300, there's a lot of space between 300 and the last support of 228 where we could fall back into. So a real nice tightening pattern for ZEC. The daily chart, the trend is bullish. This is the first bullish daily chart that we've looked at out of the last 6. And the weekly chart changing that trend is notable. We'll see if we can get some continuation on ZEC. And currently, 4-hour time frame, look how tight we're getting here. Bulls want to see a break of 361.53 short term. Bears would want to see a break of 336.86. If I were looking short term and ranges to watch into tomorrow, those are the 2 ranges right there. NEO USD on Binance, weekly time frame. So again, we're coming off the low of consolidation. The odds that the bounce is going to be powerful enough to change the trend when the last lower high was this far away is not likely at all. We're likely to set a lower high like we did, and then we need a higher low on the daily and then a break of the lower highs to change the trend. So at this point, the bulls are scouting their higher low on the weekly time frame, just like a lot of these other names like Litecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Everybody's looking for their weekly higher low. And what do we need on the daily to be confident that our weekly higher low has been set? Hear a chorus of echoing voices all speaking in unison, saying a change of trend on the daily time frame. So we have a support level of 56.43, a resistance level of 69.40, and for this daily chart to change the trend, just like Bitcoin scenario, the odds that we're going to be able to make it over 69.40 and break the lower high pattern is not likely from this scenario after already bouncing a couple days. We're likely going to set a lower high compared to 69.40, then need the daily higher low, and then the change of the trend, the bull MACD cross, and the confidence that our weekly higher low has been established. So a bit cautious here, looking for that lower high on the daily to be set. 4-hour time frame still very strong for these bulls. No slowdown at this point, but the hourly RSI is above 70. First support is 62.33. If we lose the hourly higher lows, we look for the 4-hour to form a higher low, which it will, because the last one was all the way down at 58.40. Anything above 58.40 will be a higher low on the 4-hour time frame. So again, just to wrap it all back into a cohesive thing to remember, when you on a breakout like this, when you're seeing strength, when you lose the hourly higher low pattern, you zoom out to the 4-hour time frame. In scenarios like this with so much space, the odds that we're going to form a 4-hour higher low are very likely. In order to change this momentum back to the bears and for the daily chart to set a lower high and consolidate, as I am anticipating is likely needed, the 4-hour time frame is going to have to consolidate, establish that higher low, attempt to see continuation, set a lower high, and then drop back down and break that higher low pattern on the 4-hour time frame to see the daily chart begin to consolidate. So in terms of when are we going to be confident that the daily chart is setting a lower high and consolidating, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Best case scenario for the bears would be consolidation into tonight to establish that 4-hour high or low, but then we're going to likely bounce from that point and make another attempt at continuation. So the bulls are sitting pretty heading into tonight in terms of being in full control with these 4-hour trends not changing anytime soon, and these exponential moving averages crossing for the first time in a while. Again, just scrolling back here, when's the last time we had a bull cross on NEO for these exponential moving averages? And that was all the way back in April, the end of April, and we saw some nice follow through. So here's our bull cross trying to follow through for the first time in over a month. So bulls in control there. BNB USDT on Binance. Weekly time frame, a bit of indecision on the current candlestick on the weekly time frame. So we look at the daily to get some more information, and we can see that we just had a breakout and we're seeing healthy consolidation after the breakout. It's declining bear volume. We've given back about half the move, but we are looking for a higher low. So this is a different setup, but if we're looking for a higher low on the daily time frame, what do we need to see on the 4-hour time frame? We need to see a trend change with a higher low and a higher high to be confident that our daily higher low has formed. So it's the exact same thing I've been talking about on the weekly and daily time frame. It's just moved over a time frame to the daily and the 4-hour. So the 4-hour time frame has our base of support set 1368 and 1370, so essentially a little double bottom. Now the bulls need to see a break of the lower highs, and 1440 is the last lower high. So this is the current range to be watching. If the bulls can change the trend on the daily and break 1440, we are confident, or I should say break the trend on the 4-hour time frame, we are confident that our daily higher low has been established and the bulls are going to make their way back up and likely form a daily equilibrium. And I say likely because of the range that we have from the high to the low of consolidation. If we bounce, we can make it all the way back up to 1550, and that would still be a lower high. So I would be keeping an eye out for a daily equilibrium, even if we do break bullish on the 4-hour time frame here for BNB. And I'm imagining right now that, people that are newer to what I'm saying, I know there's a whole group of you that everything that I'm saying clicks and makes sense and it's really useful and that's awesome. But I know there's a whole group of you that's struggling to keep up and it's like, what is he talking about? Which is completely fine. But this is the kind of thing that you want to review multiple times. And that's why all these videos are saved and stored on YouTube forever. So, watch this one time through, and while it's live and maybe it's a little too fast, and then go through and watch it again and pause it at different times and make sure you grasp the concept before moving on to the next one. Because once you get this concept down, it really is like riding a bike where everything that I'm saying, you're applying it to different time frames. So if I'm looking at it on the weekly and daily, I'm looking for the same kind of pattern and the same kind of setup between the 4-hour and the hourly. And once you get it down, it's so easy to apply it to all different kinds of time frames. So it's just that one hurdle to get over, certainly more than one hurdle, but the first hurdle to get over really makes it make a lot more sense eventually. ICX ETH on Binance, and on the weekly time frame, scouting for that higher low to form. We're at a key support level right now, 495 and 4925. So trying to hold this support. If it breaks, there's a lack of support until 34. So there's a lot of space down here. The bears do not want to see any more downside compared to this level on the weekly. We got the daily chart attempting to hold this low here. You can see it's a high, low, lower high, trying to form a double bottom. But if we break, it's a lower high and then a lower low, changing the momentum on the daily time frame to favor the bears. So bulls at this point are doing their absolute best to defend this level, but bulls are not going to be in the clear anytime soon. This is the weakest chart that we've seen on the daily time frame in terms of a key support being tested, and if it breaks, the potential for the bears to take over a bit. So I'm watching the last lower high on the daily. Anything under 5.9 is just a lower high on this bounce. So that's why I say the bulls are not going to be out of the woods anytime soon. Even if we bounce here all the way up to 5.5, we're still forming lower highs on the daily. We still have a must-hold support level to be keeping an eye on, and the chart definitely favors the bears at this point. Let's see if we get a little bear flag, a couple-day bounce, and then drop down and break that support level. That is something to be keeping an eye out for as well. TRX USDT on Binance, trying to form a little bull flag type pattern, very healthy consolidation on the weekly after changing the weekly trend. let's go back and look at hindsight to this concept that I keep talking about. In order for the weekly chart to form a higher low pattern and for us to be confident in that at 228, the daily chart had to change the trend. So here's looking down at 228. We bounced off that support level. We set just another lower high on the daily time frame. Well, actually, it depends on which way you look at it. You could have called this breaking the lower high pattern, but this was a clear resistance level with multiple tops. We pulled back under it, and as soon as we got over that resistance level, then we're real confident that our weekly higher low has been established. The bulls ran hard from there. We had nice multiple weekly inside bars, which Ethereum is currently forming, but we had them break bullish here. That bull break occurred at 448, and we ran up in response to that all the way up to 10. So we had a 100% plus move signaled on the weekly inside bar bull break. So now we're seeing healthy consolidation on the daily. We've got a trend change on the daily trying to follow through. So we pulled back, we established our low of consolidation, our high of the bounce attempt. We pulled back and formed a higher low, and then we just broke to a higher high. So low of consolidation, high of the bounce, which is still a lower high compared to the previous action. Pull back down, bulls hold support with a higher low. They break resistance, so now we have changed momentum back to the bulls on the daily. The bull MAC decross on the daily is close to following through. The next resistance after 789, the next major resistance is 9.3, but any of the daily lower highs could be picked out as a resistance level. So really 822, 823 rounding is the next resistance to watch. And on the daily chart, bulls really want to hold the low sixes. Anything above that level keeps them in control. So this is a nice clear support level. And this is another one, like I talked about the Bitcoin risk to reward of that entry with a clear 4-hour support level. The 15-minute RSI was oversold. So here's where we were pulling back hard. And we know we have to hold support of 591. So let's see what the 4-hour time frame looked like as we tested that support of 591. 4-hour RSI on this candlestick at the low was right at oversold. Hourly RSI on that pullback was right at oversold. So again, getting to oversold conditions with a key support nearby is a great risk to reward entry opportunity. If you entered here anywhere in the low sixes, your stop level would have been down if we break this support under 5.9, and the bulls following through with this trade playing out. Nice big bull volume on the 4-hour time frame on this new leg up. And this was just a long drawn out equilibrium here as well that we could be watching, where we had our low, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, another higher low, another lower high, another higher low, and then our bull break. And how do we know that's our clear bull break? Everybody's watching the equilibrium, all the volumes pouring in. As soon as it's equilibrium that took days and days to play out, as soon as that broke bullish, it's just straight up. And the key break was 7.1, and we went all the way to 7.8. So a 10% move on that bull break of the equilibrium, and the volume lets you know that that break's going down. Going down meaning happening, not literally going down. XRP USD on Bitfinex. So the weekly time frame is trying to change the trend. We hit the low of consolidation. The bounce is just a lower high. The last lower high was at 123. We didn't break that level, so we just set another lower high, staying in the downtrend. To change this trend, we need a higher low and then a break of the recent high of 9.7. So 9.7 is the key resistance. Bulls need a higher low compared to 46, and we're looking for that higher low right now. We're forming a weekly inside bar this week. So that tells me the daily trend is tight. We've got our low on the daily, high of the bounce attempt, higher low, and resistance 7.5. So if we break 7.5, the daily chart gives us a higher low and a higher high, and that tells us the weekly chart has formed a higher low. Same thing we're watching for on Bitcoin, and things are getting tight on the daily. Ripple is going to be one to watch towards the end of this week. Definitely. I like this setup in terms of clarity and what we're looking for. And the 4-hour time frame is in the same scenario. Cross of the exponential moving averages, the bulls in control. If we lose the hourly higher low pattern right there at 6.9, we then look for a 4-hour higher low to form because the last one was all the way down at 6.6. So the odds that we're not going to be able to form a higher low compared to 6.6 is not likely at all. We will form a higher low unless there's bad news versus that level, which is why, again, that's why it's best case scenario for the bulls heading into tonight. Worst case scenario, we consolidate on the 4-hour time frame and look for that higher low. Have to keep an eye on that volume because increasing bear volume would be a red flag on this consolidation. ZRXBTC on Binance. So the weekly chart just ran up to a new higher high. Great sign for the bulls. Now consolidation, absolutely going to form a higher low. We have not established a clear weekly higher low since 4.7. And here we are up, let's see, 300% higher than that. So healthy consolidation on the daily. We have a bounce attempt right now. The bulls want to hold this as our low, 15.1. Our new resistance is 18.3. That's our current range. We have a daily inside bar forming today. We'll look for a break of this daily inside bar tomorrow. With a bull break, we'll be confident that our weekly higher low has been established. With a bear break, we're going to be looking back down to the 15.1 support level, and we might not be done consolidating on the weekly time frame just yet. So that's a nice clear one to be watching as well in terms of the daily inside bar tomorrow for a signal. Are the bulls showing back up on the daily with that big bull volume yesterday, or was that just a bounce setting a new lower high and we're going to head back down to support? So let's check back in on Bitcoin real quick to see what the short-term action is doing, and then I'll check in on you all and answer some questions. So still holding up fine for Bitcoin. If we lose the hourly higher low pattern, so here's the wrap-up. If we lose the hourly higher low pattern tonight on any of these major names, we then look for 4-hour healthy consolidation to establish a higher low. Red flags would be increasing bear volume on the hourly time frame, losing the higher low pattern. We can see some increase, but as long as these 4-hour red candlesticks, when they come, consolidating, as long as they're not really high bear volume, then it's just fine. If we set a higher low on the 4-hour time frame on consolidation overnight, the bulls make an attempt to head back up, and we break, or we cannot break resistance, then we're looking at a tightening 4-hour equilibrium. If that breaks bearish, we look for daily consolidation. We go to the daily. So you're seeing how I do this. I look at the hourly chart. If something happens on the hourly that I'm looking for, like a loss of the support, high or low, I zoom out to the 4-hour. And then I look for the same thing there. And then if we break it on the 4-hour, I zoom out to the daily and I look for the higher low there. So if we get that higher low, then we'll be looking for the bulls to try and break the lower high pattern on the daily time frame towards the end of this week. So we're definitely going to see some nice action this week, in my opinion. It's either going to be a clear bear break, which I don't anticipate at this point. I do have a bull lean with the way everything has gone right now. The odds that our weekly higher low has formed, in my opinion, are greater than 50%. So I do favor that, which means that when we do consolidate, I will favor a higher low forming on the daily and eventually favoring the break of the lower highs on the daily for continuation. So while I'm traveling this next week, my videos are definitely going to be sporadic in terms of timing. They've been pretty consistent on the time of the day that they come out. So that's going to change, but I will still do my best to get one a day out, whether that's really early in the morning or really late at night in between this conference. That is definitely something that's going to be on the fly in terms of when I get to them. But again, this is going to be a week where I'm going to be constantly checking in because there is going to be some action, in my opinion, towards the end of the week. We could stay within this daily tightening pattern for another 3-4 days, but once we see this break, we should see volume and volatility pick up a little bit. And then once we get our confidence that the weekly time frame on Bitcoin does give us a higher low, let's say that this is our higher low and we are confident and the daily chart just changed the trend. That's not the case, but let's say it was. Then this is now our new range on the weekly equilibrium, and you can see how tight it's getting. And we're going to be looking for a break of the weekly equilibrium. Let's see, it's end of May, probably towards the end of June. And I just want to say, for me right now, it's so, you can probably, people like my confidence when I do these videos because I have a ton of confidence just understanding what's going on. So right now, I know exactly what I'm looking for on which time frames. I know if this happens, I'm looking on this time frame. And I cannot stress enough how once you reach this point of experience and repetition and confidence, that little formula I put at the end of the video yesterday, it just takes so much stress out of this game and it makes it so much easier. And I want everybody to be in this place of confidence because it's such a different game than when you're stressed. When you're stressed out, the game's not as fun. And when you're confident and killing it, the game is extremely fun. And you can play it whenever you want. You can pick it up, put it down. Never going to go anywhere. Let's look at some YouTube comments. I've been trading for 8 years at this point, roughly. We'll keep the short-term Bitcoin chart up. Appreciate all the likes in the video yesterday. Got that 1,000 record easy over 1,500. Haven't seen any kind of project that is far along on any alternative self-sustaining communities. I've seen a lot of ideas and people looking to work towards that, but in terms of anything that's near real-world usage, I haven't seen it. I am a long-term holder. Every coin that we get for TCG, we stash away, and we're holding that, and we have a policy. We're not going to touch it until 2020 at the earliest. So those are our long holdings. So that's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. Worst habits, new traders, not having stop losses, over trading. Those are the two. And the third one is not knowing when to re-enter, getting paralyzed. So I can't tell you how many times I'll get stopped out of a position and then re-enter maybe a little bit higher, but still profit because of that. A lot of people have this psychological barrier where they say, like, if I got stopped out and I'm out of the position, to rebuy higher is a bad decision. That's not always the case. If there's a technical development that takes place, I'm going to rebuy higher every time because there's still profit to be had on that move. It doesn't matter, that I gave up a little bit of profit because I protected my position. Getting back in is really important. Stop losses were the single most significant change to my trading career. I was going nowhere. Well, I wouldn't say nowhere, but I was definitely slowing myself way down where I would have a great week and I would give back the entire profit of that week with one bad trade. As soon as I started using stop losses and as soon as I prevented from that happening, it was, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. It completely changed my progress by utilizing stop losses on every trade. And I know it's hard and I know it's frustrating to learn and you get stopped out. I get stopped out before bull breaks often as well. It happens. It's part of the game. You have to accept that. I will gladly accept that, knowing that I'm not going to give back. I will never give back a week's worth of profit again in my life. There's a ton of questions here. I'll do my best. End of June, major breakout or major breakdown? Odds favor the bulls, but we'll see. Not a significant favor at this point. Honestly, I don't have any time for any more work. So making accounts on other platforms and things like that, it's just not even on the radar. I'm barely able to brush my teeth. Same thing. I don't plan on posting my entries and exits on Twitter. Sometimes I do if it's convenient, but my responsibility is with our members in the chat room. I always post them there. As far as Twitter goes, that's give or take, hit or miss. If you're learning, if limited funds, using the crypto alerts, I had a friend who was using them and using them as educational tools. So if I get an alert that says 4-hour inside bar bull break, I then go to the chart and watch that 4-hour bar break and see how it plays out. So I can see, what does abnormal volume, what does an oversold climax look like? What does the bounce look like? What does the RSI level get down to? What does the volume look like on the bounce? So watching these moves play out, whether it's inside bar breaks, abnormal volume signals, overbought climaxes to know when to look to take profit in scenarios. So seeing how the scenarios play out, even if you have no skin in the game, watching how those alerts follow through, it's just a practice where it's saying, okay, this is the signal. If I get a 4-hour inside bar alert signal on Bitcoin, I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to be making a bullish entry on that. So even if I'm not making a bullish entry, I can go look at it and say, okay, a lot of people triggered in on this signal. Let's see the kind of follow through we get. Where would I be putting my stop loss if I had just entered this position, and using it for an educational tool. Do not like tacos El Pastor. I'm a fan of living pigs. Stopped eating pigs as soon as I cared for them. It all depends on the setup. There will be times where I get stopped out of a trade and I'll go to bed for the rest of the night and not care about it. And there will be times where I'll get stopped out of a trade and re-enter sometimes within the next 2 hours. It all depends on the setup and the signals. ICX where would I put I would put a stop loss right below this current low of 4925. That level breaks, I do not want to be in this void area with a lack of support. So I just made this trade. This is a Canadian or a US MJ name. I entered this trade on Friday. This is a potential bull flag on the daily. I entered the trade because it's very low risk. I know exactly where my stop is. If we break the low of this current consolidation, I'm out of the trade because the next support level, there could be some space before we find it. So I enter at 643. My exit is if we break 623, and my potential profit, if we see continuation, is going to be up around $7. So it's a 2 or 3 to 1 risk to reward scenario. And I don't have to do anything. I have no decisions to make on this trade. Every single decision about this trade was made before I entered it. I entered and said, if we break this level, I'm out. If we break bullish to continue, I'm going to lock in some profit. It's as simple as that. I will have zero emotional reaction to this trade. I already know exactly what the plan is, and that's that. When the weekly breaks, I will absolutely plan on holding for a longer period of time. So again, going to a different example, Canadian MJ, WEED was the same exact equilibrium pattern on the weekly time frame. We had a huge breakout to all-time highs. We had our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low. We broke bullish last week. I am currently in a WEED position that I've been holding longer than at any point in 2018. And the reason for that is because of the bull break on the weekly equilibrium. And that's the reason we follow through on these moves, because short-term traders like me hold their positions longer when you get a break of a longer-term time frame. Big Cheds is similar to me on Twitter. He actually just beat his cancer. He's got a garden going. We grew up in the same town. No, not the same town, but very close to each other. We had a lot of similarities that were kind of eerie. Let's see if I can get his exact handle. Post it here in just a second. Chose my top 3 trading styles by just what I was most comfortable with and what works for me. My top trading style is oversold bounces, and that's not common in a lot of traders. And that's just my experience and repetition and doing it time and time again. And then the next one is equilibriums, which a lot more traders use. But it's just what you focus on, what you enjoy. That's a big important thing. If I hate oversold bounces, I'm not going to be good at it, and it's not going to be, my best play. And that can be as simple as some earlier experiences on your attempts ruining it for you. So let's say, my first year of trading, if I tried oversold bounces and got cleaned out and didn't use stop losses and, took away 50% of my account, I would probably be a completely different trader right now and stay far away from oversold bounces. So those early events in your trading career can absolutely shape who you are in the future. So it's also important to not write something off. Obviously, if something's not working for you, don't stick with it and keep trying to make it work, even if it's not. But stay open. I mean, you need to recognize that in yourself. That's where psychology comes into play, where you can say to yourself, okay, why don't I like oversold bounces? Is it this experience? Can I maybe get over that experience? Can I learn from it and get better because of it? Or, is it time to just accept that I shouldn't try and play oversold bounces? And that's fine too, but you just need to be able to give it an unbiased analysis and recognize what's going on in your psyche. I only use 2 screens. I will use a third one as my cell phone for the chat room sometimes, but I've used 3 screens before and it just seems like overkill. I've been using 2 screens for many years and it's all that I need. I'm very comfortable with this setup. And it also really helps for mobile. I just take my laptop and I take my little screen, put it in my backpack, and I can fly anywhere and have my trading set up wherever I go. If $5 per trade for stocks is a lot for the amount of capital you're using, you should just be investing and not trading with that amount of capital. Because yes, if you're trading with, $500 or $1,000, $5 per trade is going to add up significantly. And that's where the stock market world is skewed towards favoring big money. The fact that I can make a trade with $100 and it's going to cost me as much as if I make a trade with $1 million, obviously, what's the percentage of $5 from $1 million compared to $5 from $100? If I enter a trade with $100, I need 5% to go break even. If I enter a trade with $1 million, I need 0.000 whatever to get break even. It's not a fair game. Smallest amount of capital worth trading in the MJ sector, I would say a couple $1,000s. I started with 3. I originally thought I started with 5, but the 2008 crash, I had my money in a mutual fund. And I lost maybe 1,800 of 5,000. So I started from 3,000 8 years ago. We got a bunch on our team. We got chart guys Jason, chart guys James, chart gal Dinsey, and then we got 3 developers working behind the scenes. I guess they're not chart guys and gals, but they're part of the team. I did simplify my strategy into a decision tree, and I included it in the crypto course update. More of a flow chart, same deal. I trade MMJ on Fidelity. If you're out of the country, you want to use interactive brokers. That's the most common. Do your research. I don't live in Canada. WED is coming up to test the highs. Let's check out this ETH BTC chart, which broke to a higher high recently, but also saw some profit taking. We have to be cautious here. ETH might lose its momentum compared to Bitcoin soon. Key support here. The fact that we're not getting more significant follow through is a bit concerning. So the key support is down at 8243. If we break that level, we lose a daily higher low pattern that's been intact for 6 weeks. That's very notable. You can see the upper wicks of profit taking. This is very important to be watching over the next few days. And that's because the weekly chart, we're looking for a lower high to form. I'm looking for an ETH BTC long-term weekly equilibrium to play out into the end of the year. So we're scouting for our lower high. It's been 6 weeks of straight green. We're scouting for a weekly lower high. If it were set here, we'd look for a higher low. This is a very important pattern on the daily and weekly time frame to be watching for the rest of the year. Right now, Ethereum would be the lead of the big 3, unless we lose this daily higher low pattern. And then I might shift to either Litecoin or Bitcoin. If Ethereum is dethroned, I will then have to do a lot of scouting between Litecoin and Bitcoin and choose who's number 1 now. And we should know within the next couple days whether we're going to lose this daily higher low pattern or not. I haven't used stop buys a lot. I used them a lot when we were in breakout mode. I'm very confident, stop buying into a blue sky breakout. Very confident, but not in these current market conditions. Last time I did do a stop buy was Bitcoin down at the low on that daily, when we had that daily equilibrium that signaled the recent bottom. This is where I did my last stop buy on this candlestick. I was a part of that raging volume for the breakout. I do not think ETH will overtake BTC this year. Not enough time. Nice continuation on Bitcoin. So ETH trying to make its way back to the high. And here's how you can see that Ethereum's lagging a little bit. And that's that chart that I just showed, showing a little bit of weakness. If we see that bear break, that will be notable. And Litecoin and Ethereum have not headed to a higher high yet, like Bitcoin has. And now the hourly RSI is getting too extended on Bitcoin. You do not want to be making an entry. Again, look back at historical levels. When's the last time that this hourly RSI on Bitcoin was this high, and what happened? The last 3 times it's happened in the past 6 weeks. We do not stay up there long. Leads to consolidation. So always look at historical levels. Yes, we just made a bull break. That doesn't mean it's a bullish entry signal. If you are not already in this trade, we are more extended than I would like to be personally. Hourly RSI is just about to get to 80s. And our new hourly higher low very clear at 8,481. BCH is definitely almost like a leveraged version of BTC. If BTC goes 1% in either direction, it's like BCH goes 2% in the same direction. Nice inside bar pattern to be watching on BCH on the hourly. So that means if I zoom into the 15-minute, it's in equilibrium. High, low, lower high, higher low. Break of 1288 is bearish. Break of 1311 is bullish. So I expect Bitcoin to top out for tonight sooner rather than later because of this hourly RSI. Then we'll be looking for our 4-hour healthy consolidation to form another 4-hour higher low overnight. All right, let's do one more. Next person to type an altcoin wins. Icon wins. Icon BTC on, look at them all go. I love that there's a delay. I say that and then I sit for 9 seconds and I just wait. Blue Sky Breakout is a time where I will ignore the hourly RSI. That's just about it. Or an area with very limited resistance or a significant news event. So weekly time frame for ICX is forming an inside bar. Key support short term is 3977. It's actually not an inside bar by a small fraction, but 3977 is key support. And the most important resistance, I would say, is 495. So that's currently the range to be watching. If we break 3977, next support is 374. And if we break resistance, we're looking up to our recent high. So the trend has changed on the weekly time frame where we pulled back, we bounced, we set our higher low and our higher high. Here's another higher low, and the bulls are trying to see continuation. But it will be a major red flag short term if we break 3977 on this daily chart. But we could easily stay within this range for the next, week or two even. All depends on the amount of volume. But those are the ranges to be watching on Itecoin. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. It's Sunday night. And I want to pack. Trying to think of question to give away a course. One where I'm not going to have to scan through the chat for an hour to find the answer. Let's say what is the largest animal to ever have lived on planet Earth? I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday night and continue to do good things out there. I will have the pleasure of looking to do good things in Georgia and California. I'll get some Yosemite footage for you all. And Afro Man is the winner. See how I can find you. All right, Afro Man, I'm sending you a message on YouTube. All right, I appreciate you all. It's been a lot of fun. I'll be back tomorrow. Probably put a video out at noon. But again, they're going to be all over the place sporadically. And we have very clearly what we're watching for. Daily time frame, likelihood of setting a lower high and needing a higher low first before the bull break. Doesn't have to happen. We need some high bull volume for that to be not the case and for the bulls to just break 8,880 resistance. And we'll see y'all soon. Thanks again.